Okay, welcome everyone. We'll just give it a couple of minutes for people to join because we are live. We're going to have an incredible session today. But as you jump in, please type in the chat where you're coming from. So I'm coming from Melbourne. Manuel is coming from sunny. Is it sunny there for you at the moment in Gold Coast?
No, not at all. It's actually raining.
Okay, that makes me feel better. And we have Natalie. We're in the same place as Manuel. Is it weather no good?
No, weather's not great here either.
Okay. Well, I'm sure we can turn this session into a very vibrant and sunny session. So we're just going to wait a couple more minutes for everybody to drop into the session. Okay. Here we go. We have, yeah. Okay, we'll give it another sort of 30 seconds and then we'll go live. All right. So I'm looking forward today because we've got an extraordinary franchise owner, Natalie, who's joining us to talk a bit about her journey, what's led her to Celebrity Inc. Very new to the franchise network. And so we'll be able to really learn a bit about her journey so far and what her strategy is moving forward. So look, we've waited a couple of minutes and we might just get straight into it and get started. So welcome everyone again. Thanks for taking the time out of your day. This is being recorded so for those that miss this recording, we will be circulating it across email. And for those of you that do get the opportunity to join today, we'll also circulate it so that you can rewatch, because there's going to be some incredible nuggets that's going to be shared by Natalie and Celebrity Inc. CEO Manuel. So my name is Luigi Prestinenzi, and I'll be the host for today's session. I'm here to guide the guys through a conversation to allow you to walk away with an understanding of the Celebrity Inc. business model, how it's helping people like Natalie achieve her business goals. And if there is an interest for you to learn more about the business opportunity that's available, we'll share with you some details of who you can connect with and where to. So before we get into today's exciting session, I want to welcome Manuel Campos, who is the CEO of Celebrity Inc. He has an incredible career working in the finance area of the business and has also managed a number of businesses before joining Celebrity Inc. as the CEO to guide the business through an incredible growth period that's seeing territories and sites being opened up all over the world. And I'd also like to welcome Natalie Kington, who has joined the business and opened her first franchise 5 months ago, who's also a mother of two and a very successful business owner. So thanks guys for joining today.
No worries.
You're welcome.
Fantastic. So I just wanted to sort of get started. As I said, it's very conversational today. Would love to learn a bit more about you, Natalie. So tell us a bit about yourself and sort of what led you down the path of becoming a franchise owner.
So I came into the franchise business. So I have other businesses outside of Celebrity Inc. Other franchise business. I came into those 7.5 years ago. Primarily for the reason that I think you can be quite limited as an employee. And I was frustrated by those limitations from a lifestyle perspective, from a finance perspective, from a satisfaction in my job perspective. So I was looking for essentially more responsibility so that I didn't have a ceiling effect.
Yep.
And to me, I like the, I'm big on brand confidence. So when you buy into a franchise, you're buying that brand confidence, you're investing into that. And then you're asking potential consumers to invest into that. So I feel really comfortable with that, which is why I have multiple businesses. They're all franchises. And I think it gives you an enormous amount of satisfaction in your role. You have a higher level of responsibility, but you have a lot higher level of satisfaction, and financially you're much better off if you're willing to take the risk and to put in the hard work. So that suits me.
Yeah, fantastic. And your previous role, I mean, how long were you in that role, and the level of seniority that you had in that particular role before becoming a franchise owner?
So my previous role I was in for 2.5 years, but the industry I was in for 14 years,
Yep.
Which was sales and marketing in the medical and pharmaceutical world. And so I worked for a company called Allergan, which is a company that makes Botox, a number of other different things. But and I was a regional manager for Queensland, New Zealand, and I had around $23 million worth of sales in my portfolio and a team of about 20 that I ran. And it was, it was tough, hard work. As anyone in a reasonably senior level of a corporate understands, the demands are huge. You never work a 38-hour week. And it at times was largely unfulfilling, but I learned a lot. So it was actually a great basis for moving into being a business owner.
Yeah, fantastic. And at what point did you make, what sort of triggered you to go from that point? You mentioned unfulfilling, where you said, hey, I'm in a corporate role here, the ceiling, I'm not fulfilled. What kind of triggered you to go, right, it's time for me to become a business owner?
It just comes down to opportunity. I think generally, if you're interested in being in business, most people, I think, feel it for quite a long time before they make the jump. Because it's a big risk. And, I think sometimes it comes from just getting to the bottom and just being really unhappy with where you're at or what it's taking from you. So for me, I was just sick of making other people money. I've always been very successful in every role, and I've always exceeded what the expectations are. But you actually don't necessarily see that back equated to the effort that you're putting in, getting it back yourself. Whereas in business, it's more of a level playing field. And I just saw an opportunity. In the aesthetics world, and I just needed to jump on it. So combination of the opportunity coming along and being at that right level of, okay, now I'm really starting to not enjoy my life.
Yeah.
And I want to see improvements across the board, and took the plunge.
Fantastic. And before I go to Manuel to sort of ask him a bit about the business model and what attracted you to the business model, I'd love to know kind of, since you've made that transition from employee to kind of business owner, how has your life changed?
I think for me, it changed in every respect. One of the biggest things for me was starting a family, and I couldn't do that in my previous role because I was on 3 to 4 flights a week, never at home. And so there's lifestyle changes, and then there's financial changes, and then there's just, I guess, the impact of you becomes huge because you're the business owner. So how you operate defines how your staff operate, which defines the success of your business. So there's a lot more emphasis on you. But for me, it's been incredibly positive because I think when you take the ownership and you take the accountability for your own results, the world's your oyster. And you're not having to work in parameters such as what you're held in a corporate. So in terms of satisfaction, your results are your results. So yeah, it's been extremely positive. It's definitely one of the best things that have happened to me or that I've ever done. And I would highly recommend anybody who's on the cusp and thinking about it. If you're a resilient person, if you're a persistent person, if you're a high achiever and a high performer, then there's no question you should absolutely do it.
Yeah, fantastic. And we're going to go back in a moment and talk to you a bit about what attracted you to this business model. But before so, Manuel, would love to get your sort of input around, what makes this particular business model so unique that's disrupting a market so quickly?
Yeah, look, it's an interesting question because I worked in listed companies before in industries that have large players, very successful players. And when I joined this business, I found an industry that is extremely profitable, that has been growing for many years, that it's forecasted to continue growing 8% in the long term, but there were no big players. So as someone with a business advisory mindset, I started to look into it and why there were no major players in this industry. And that's when we together at Celebrating, we found what were the tweaks that we needed to make in the business model to make this to become the biggest player, largest player, and the leading brand in this industry. It's an immense industry. It's an industry with huge potential. So I looked at those different things, and one of the things that is and was limiting this industry was a barrier of entry that we call, and that was the availability of the core people in an industry like this, which are the artists. And so the industry was made with a small, scarce pool of talented artists, tattoo artists. And because of that, it also came with a very unprofitable way of remunerating these artists. Of course, like everything in an economy, you have supply and demand. And when the supply is a lot shorter than the demand, then the supply dictates a lot more. So we started working on those sort of variables. We started looking at ways, creatively thinking outside the box, ways of disrupting the industry in that sense. And that's when we came up with several initiatives, among them creating our own academy of tattoo artists. So, I mean, the world is full of amazingly talented artistic people. But for some reason or another, this industry was not attracting them or was not giving them room to come to the industry, express their art, and make a good living out of it. So one of the first things we implemented was that. So that made the business model a lot more profitable. And then, of course, we seen the potential in this industry. We have been investing and we continue investing very heavily in technology. So because what we're trying to do as a brand is move away from an industry that wasn't putting too much emphasis on the customer and the customer experience, and focusing solely on that, on providing an amazing customer experience, so providing feel-good experiences to every single customer, and not just when they sit to get the tattoo, but throughout the whole customer journey. And for that is what we're investing extremely heavily is on technology, the best world technology, to make sure that our customers receive an amazing experience and they come out of the experience with us feeling better about themselves, feeling great.
Fantastic. And I just want to talk about that for a moment, Natalie, with you, because we talk about experience, right? And let's talk about historically, what has been the experience for somebody? Because if you think about tattoos, you kind of, you can picture what a tattoo parlor might look like. Tell us a bit about why this unique experience is attracting so many customers to come through the doors and actually get their tattoo for the first time.
I think because a tattoo previously was taken up by the market in a minority. So say you walk down the street anywhere really now in Western society, I think once upon a time, maybe you saw 1 in 20 or 1 in 30 people with a tattoo. I think if I walk down the street now, anywhere in Brisbane, I would see maybe 1 in 20 or 1 in 30 that doesn't have a tattoo. So when you take the traditional business model, which was catering to the minority, but the market has moved into majority, then you need to be able to service that majority. And that means you need to mainstream the experience for people. You need to make it predictable. You need to make it consistent. You need to make it approachable and pleasant. And all of these things, the tattoo industry is not known for, right? So when you think of a tattoo parlor, maybe you think of dark doors and windows, maybe some skulls. It's certainly not somewhere most people would say, yeah, you know, like I feel 10 out of 10 confidence going in there. So because now it's consumed by so many people, then these people want a good experience, but they want to go somewhere where it's acceptable. And putting a tattoo studio or parlor or whatever you want to call it into a shopping center space really goes a long way to making that acceptable in the mainstream market. So just by seeing it there, you know, people go, okay, that's acceptable now. It's safe, it's clean. And that's where Celebrity Ink has filled that gap.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is that you've essentially created there's the business essentially being created based on creating an inviting, accessible, mainstream, in studio and environment that's really catering for customers and removing that kind of stigma or that fear of going into kind of that closed skull-based tattoo parlor.
Yeah, because people who want that are the minority. You know, they might call themselves the diehards or whatever it is, you know, but they are, at the end of the day, they are the minority. The majority people are like me and you, they're professionals, they're mums, they're dads, they're 18-year-olds, you know, everyone basically. And so you need to cater for that. And that's where there's no one else doing that. There's no one else doing that in the market. And you need to look at it with fresh eyes and really, you know, as Manuel pointed out, you actually need to look at what that experience looks like, because people don't want just a tattoo. They don't just want good art. They actually want to enjoy the experience from the moment they walk in, the entire part of it, and when they walk out. They want to have that, because I would say in my studio, probably 80% or perhaps more have meaning behind the tattoo. So yes, we do absolutely have the people who walk in at least 5-6 times a day. I'll get bookings of people who are just walking in. Did they wake up this morning and think I'm going to get a tattoo? No, they're in the shopping center. They go, I want a tattoo, but there'll be meaning behind that tattoo. So when it's meaningful to them, or it's personal or it's sentimental, then the experience is really important. They want to connect with the person they're getting the tattoo from. And they want to look at that tattoo and feel good about it, because they're going to be looking at it for a long time. And that's where Celebrity Ink is, you know, they're just hitting that spot for people.
And tell us, so you've had no previous experience managing a tattoo studio. You came into this quite fresh. Your studio's been open for, is it 5 months? Yeah. And some of the results that you've seen from a return on investment perspective, do you mind sharing sort of, you know, without going into the numbers, but has it sort of met your expectations?
Absolutely. And look, I've got other franchise businesses as well. So I've got something that I can compare against, which are also very successful. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking at paying my initial investment back within 18 months. Fantastic. So, you know, I think by anyone's standards, that's a good return. And the uptake, I guess what you're always looking for when you open a business is the response from the market. You know, generally it's a bit slow initially. the only reason it's not quicker than 18 months, to be honest, is because initially I didn't have the artists because they were in training. But the consumer uptake and the consumer interest was there from the day I opened.
Fantastic.
So that's what that's what you need in a business, because if you don't have that, you have to spend money to get that. And I've spent next to no money on marketing in this business so far, and I don't actually intend on spending anything because I'm not going to need to, which is great because it's more money for me.
Okay, so do you mind if we kind of go, so, talking about that, because if you think about a business, essentially a key part of the P&L in any business is attributed to marketing, right? To sort of generate awareness and bring people through the studio. You mentioned, 18 months, you're expecting to receive your return back, which is pretty phenomenal from any business model. But would love to know, so how are customers coming into your studio if you're not doing any sort of paid marketing?
I think it's just a reflection that gap was there, to be honest. I just think when you actually fill a gap that well, it's just how the market responds. And I think, people, when you put something in a shopping center space, people deem it to be safe. They deem it to be clean. They deem it to be acceptable. And they get that brand confidence, obviously, from Celebrity Ink, which is huge as well. So I think when you combine those things compared to an industry which has not done that at all, it's been around for a long time, but it's actually probably prided itself on not doing that, then people will just come organically. It's like osmosis. They just come through because they've been wanting it. And that's a really lovely position to be in. I've had to spend in my other businesses. I've also got another business in the same shopping center. 7.5 years old. It does very well. I spent 100,000 in marketing in the first 12 months of opening. Wow. In that business. Yeah. I'm anticipating maybe I'll spend 10 to 12K in this business in the first 12 months. So that's a direct comparator. And it's not because I'm afraid of spending money. I just don't need to. And that's a genuine market response. That's just what I've seen so far. Pleasantly surprised and also not surprised, because that's why I came into the business, because I thought this is an emerging market. People want they want that certainty that they get with a brand, what they get with the look, and they get with the location. And the other byproduct as well is that when you have that, your initial gathering of your client base is relatively easy, doesn't cost you a lot of money. The best thing about that is what I've seen in the tattoo world so far is that business is built by referral. So then because you're not investing in getting your client base, you're doing a great job with them, giving them a great experience. They go and then they tell 10 of their mates. And then their mates come in because they want that experience, right? So then you're not investing long-term or short-term in a database, which is massive.
That's amazing. So that kind of community-led kind of marketing.
Absolutely. It's very poignant in the tattoo world. People, and it's a visual, right? It's on, it's on someone. They're getting it now, getting tattoos in obvious places because they want people to notice it and they want to talk about it. It's a talking point. So from a business perspective, usually you have to spend a lot of money to make that happen.
Absolutely.
Whereas that happens by itself in this industry. It can work totally against you if you don't do a great job. And there are other, studios, parlors, not Celebrity Inks, that aren't doing a great job. And therefore, even that works for you, because then people learn to seek out a brand confidence.
Fantastic. And Manuel, from a HQ perspective, how are you going, how are you enabling, because obviously Natalie's come into the business, achieved incredible success. There's probably learnings from every new franchisee that comes onto the, on board. But how is HQ enabling the success of these new studios to achieve the results that Natalie's achieved?
Yeah, look, that's a good question. Of course, it's an industry that has never had a big player before. So we are setting the path to this, to being a big player, to bringing this industry from underground to mainstream. So what we are doing is we're tapping into franchisees' feedback constantly. We're always asking for feedback. We work together with franchisees because they're the ones sitting there day in, day out, or the managers who report to them sit there day in, day out, and they provide us information. So we use technology to be constantly communicating with each other, communicating learnings, communicating mistakes that we make that we don't want to repeat. And we are very open at head office. We're very open to their ideas, and we have implemented several ideas that came straight from our franchisees. And that's enabling us to grow exponentially instead of everything coming from head office.
Yeah, fantastic. And maybe I can ask both of you, and I might start with you, Manuel, but when we think about, you know, a potential business owner coming into the network, and there's people that will be probably asking, you know, hearing Natalie's experience, probably thinking, you know what, I'm in that point in my career now, especially coming on the back of a pandemic here in Australia, for example, and in other markets, probably asking themselves some questions. Do I want to go back to the corporate role, ceiling, not fulfilled, and maybe making that change? What are some of the characteristics that make up a really high performing, like what Natalie's been able to achieve? And I'll ask you in a moment, Natalie, but from your perspective, Manuel, what are the characteristics that you're looking for in a potential franchisee coming into the community?
Yeah, I mean, anyone listening to Natalie now can tell that people like Natalie are great franchisees to have in the brand. She has experience, of course, she has experience in franchising. She has business acumen, and all that helps. But if I have to put it down to something, because you don't have to have experience with franchising, you don't have to have business experience altogether. It's about the attitude. And if you have the right attitude, if you're willing to put the work, if you're willing to be open to learning from experience, others' experience, if you're open to follow what we have implemented based on experience from other tattoo studios, you're gonna do fine. You're gonna do it really well.
So mindset and having the attitude and being coachable, fantastic. And how about yourself, Natalie? If you were giving advice to somebody that's asking you, you know, what do I need? What are the ingredients for success? How do I become like you? What do you tell them?
Well, I look, I think people often make the mistake of thinking that you need technical skills in the business that you're proceeding with, which I don't necessarily agree with. In fact, I think it's an advantage not to have the technical skill, because you stay off the tools essentially and you work on the business, which is key. But really, you know, I think people make the mistake of looking at other people and going, oh, wow, you know, you've done so well, you must be, you know, incredibly smart, or whatever it might be. I don't think that's the case. I don't think you have to be the smartest person in the room. I think you just have to be very resilient, and you have to be persistent. And if you can nail those two things, it's incredibly hard to fail. And you don't need technical skill. You hire people, you pay people on your payroll who have technical skill. They won't necessarily have the persistence and the resilience, though. So you make sure that you show up and you front up in that. And really, that's it. It's quite simple. If you can apply that in everything that you do, and you don't have any expectations that it's going to be easy, because it's not going to be easy. You're going to get back more than you've ever gotten back before, personally and professionally. So, you know, you can't really, I don't know if you can actually package up what you need to be, other than just being incredibly resilient. That's what I would say.
Well, I think, you know, the characteristics that you both shared are common across most industries that we see, and including, non-business, when you look at athletes as well, the ones that have that incredible mindset and focus on that resilience and continuing to show up each and every day, trying to be the best they can be, are the ones that often do find success. Because you're right, things aren't going to go, it's not perfect. Any business, any new business is going to have its challenges. Natalie, if you had the time to go back to day one, like 5 months in, what's one of the learnings you took away that you'd love to share with others who might be about to take the leap and start this journey?
For the tattoo business or business in general, or
for this particular, actually, I think business in general, because you've now got a number of businesses, so you've gone through the process a number of times. So what is that key learning that you've taken away from starting multiple businesses that you'd love to share in what you might have done a bit differently?
What would I have done differently? Oh God, have you got 3 hours? I guess, that's you have to invest in yourself. You have to manage yourself and invest in yourself. That's the key. If you want to be successful in business, and that comes back to resilience, you can't just wake up in the morning and go, I need to be resilient, turn on the resilience button. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's around, like Manuel was saying, it's around attitude and mindset. And they don't come naturally, because you've got to remember, when you're in business, you're dealing with all the high level stuff, good and bad, right? But initially, you have more challenges than you have, financial wins, or you often have business debt, and you have a lot of things riding on this, so the pressure's on.
Yeah.
So it really is about managing yourself and investing in yourself. So whatever that looks like for you, there's lots of avenues around to assist in that. Get a mentor, find someone, buddy up with someone who can help you and keep you going for that first 12 months. And really, that's probably the biggest thing that I've learned, and probably the biggest thing that's taken me from being a business owner to, being in the top of the fields that I'm in, is just managing myself. And then I manage my teams very well. I hire very well. My expectations are on point, and then you just hit goals. Yeah.
So if we go back, and I really appreciate you sharing that, but if we go back, because obviously, the most recent startup for you is this particular studio that you've opened, right? So if we go back to that, that previous 5 months, you mentioned earlier on that your run rate, or achieving a higher return quicker. So you mentioned 18 months could have been achieved if you had more artists. So tell us a bit about the talent gap that you faced and what you did to overcome that.
Yeah, so I think with the tattoo industry, certainly in the market that I'm operating in, just as we were talking about, I don't know what the stats are, I don't know what the percent, but it's grown phenomenally, relatively quickly. So there is a lack of supply of artists in the market. And then further to that lack of supply, there's a lack of supply of suitable artists for what we're looking for to give the customer the experience that we want to give.
Yeah.
So you need to actually create that for yourself as an owner. And I think what puts a lot of people off is they go, well, how am I going to find tattoo artists for a start? If I can't find them, how am I going to take someone and train them when I have no idea about tattoos? Valid point. So you have to allow yourself the time. So if I had my time again, I would have started my recruitment 6 months out. And I would have opened my studio with the team that I have now, which is around 11 artists currently. And phenomenal artists. Like, the art coming out of the studio is great, because I went and recruited people who have amazing art ability, base level, but they haven't been able to make a living from art. So we know that in the field of arts, whether it's acting, singing, dancing, actual art, it's probably the top 2, 3, 1, I don't know, percent that actually make a living from it or are considered successful. And it's a labor of love. So there is this whole pool of people out there with amazing skill, but just can't find a way to make a living out of it. And that's what we can offer them. So that process just takes a little while. I would say it would take 6 months for you to recruit. Manuel mentioned the academy, absolute lifesaver, integral to a successful business in the tattoo industry. Run them through the academy, get them licensed, then get them into your studio to be giving you a return. Yeah.
This is awesome. So let's talk about this, right? Because I think there's a couple of things I want to pull. So just on that, if you had your time again, you would have probably started to recruit earlier in the process so that you could have fielded a more rounded team. And that would have allowed you to kind of hit that number quicker and possibly bring that 18 months even sooner, right? So great learning, and thanks for sharing that. But I want to sort of talk about that academy model, because what you've hit there is you're not just taking tattoo artists and bringing them in, but you're actually getting people that have that creative element and that the creative side of themselves and breeding them through the academy. So Manuel, talk to us a bit about, because you mentioned it a couple of times, and I think this is a real differentiator and one of the things that really allows studios to unlock that growth as quickly as they can. But talk to us a bit about how that academy's formed and what HQ do to sort of bring in that pool of talent and develop them to go into the actual studios.
Yeah, like I said before in my introduction, the main reason why this industry, anywhere in the world, doesn't have big players is because of that barrier of entry, which is the access to talented tattoo artists. So it's an interesting story because I own a studio in an island in the Philippines. That's got, you only can get there by plane, and one every week. Yeah, I should have thought it through. But I was talking to my business partner who was there at the time, and we couldn't find tattoo artists. And I said to him, well, because we had a few artists in the studio, and I said, well, get on your scooter, go around the town, look for artistic people, bring them into the studio, and get the artists to teach them how to tattoo.
Yeah.
And out of that, we brought the idea back to Australia, and that's how we started thinking and preparing the academy. So now the academy has grown tremendously. We have someone, Mitch Costello, running it amazingly well. And what the academy does is what Natalie was saying. I mean, there's tons of talented artistic people out there, and what we do is we give them the opportunity to be able to, instead of working in jobs that they probably hate and it gives them no satisfaction, be able to make a really good living out of expressing the art. And that's, it's a win-win, because we bring in these amazing, beautiful people doing what they love and making good money out of it. And it gives us the opportunity to grow and to be able to also improve our business model financially by increasing that pool of tattoo artists.
But it's an interesting paradigm, right? Because what you're doing is you're essentially enabling the tattoo artists that have the creative side, and you're breeding them, and you're giving them a career doing what they love. And you're essentially you're removing all the other aspects of the role. They don't have to find clients, do they?
The tattoo artists, they don't have to do anything other than sit there and do amazing tattoo, amazing art, which is what we cannot do at head office, none of us. And that's the job, and it's a very unique skill. Not many of us have that skill. So they just need to focus on what they're great at. And we look after everything else for them. So
And how have you found that experience, Natalie? How have you found that sort of experience of just enabling them to do what they do so well, and you focus on what you do so well?
Well, I think that's key to any business, is actually, breaking down the strengths of the people in your business and allocating it so that everybody's doing something that they are productive at, enjoy. So that's retention. And then the byproduct is they make money, right? So actually, an unexpected but really pleasant side effect of it all is it's really fulfilling. It's actually very fulfilling when I remember I recruited this lot that I've just trained, I had a girl in Perth, which is, 5.5 hour flight from Brisbane.
Yeah.
She was willing to fly over for the 15-minute interview, right? And I said to her, no, let's just do a Zoom. And this was about 4 months ago. Let's just do a Zoom. Anyway, she was lovely on the phone, checked out, art was great. I said, look, I'm happy to progress you. She moved over within a week and she started in the studio last week. And her return is phenomenal already because she's just such a great person and great art. But the gratitude that she gives you, like when you walk into the business, and the gratitude that these staff have for you giving them a platform to make money, not doing night shift at Woolies or working in some, divey pub down the road. They're doing what they love and they're making money. So they sleep well at night. They can pay their bills. These guys haven't had this for a long time. And they're in a studio and a team of 10 people that also have this love for art and tattooing. So the feel, the culture that you're able to run in this business is pretty phenomenal, rare. And then so when clients walk in, they feel this, right? And they're like, wow, this is a great place to be. There's so much passion. I'm going to get a great tattoo here. And actually, I want to tell everyone about it and I want to come back. So it kind of all works together. But for me, it's not something I would make a business decision on or look for, which is like the fulfillment. I make commercial decisions mostly, but it's a very nice side effect.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is you're not just creating a unique experience for your customers, but you're also creating a unique experience for the artists and really connecting both to create an incredible brand proposition.
And the other thing, what everyone has to remember is thinking about investing in Celebrity Ink is that what we are offering, what we just talked about, so the alternative is outside of Celebrity Ink is the opposite of all that. And then, worst times 100 basically, because what these guys are looking down the barrel of, if they want to be an artist, is they're looking down the barrel of 18 months to 2 years not being paid, working full time. Some of my guys that I have who have been apprentices elsewhere and fell out of their apprenticeship because they just couldn't take it. They were cleaning their cars of the guys who they were employed, not being paid by. For one guy did it for 6 months and was treated terribly with no guarantee of actually being an artist. So not only what we're doing is structured, predictable, great, meets their financial requirements, good culture, and humanistic, it's just so much better than what is offered in the market. So as a business operator, you have the ability to secure the best artists because what you're offering is so much better than anywhere else.
Yeah, and I think the things that you just mentioned, right? Some of the culture and the experience and the, all those items and elements that you mentioned is what makes a really successful business. And again, what I'm hearing from this conversation thread, that for anybody looking at investing into a Celebrity Ink studio, it's not a tattoo parlor. It's far from it. It's a completely different model. And for anyone thinking, what advice would you have for them, Natalie, that's thinking about taking that plunge or is at the early stage of the process thinking, I want to make the move from whether my current job or my change careers completely. What advice would you have for them?
I get asked this question quite a lot, and across different industries. And my answer is always just do it. Because if you're thinking about it and you've got to this stage, that burning yearning inside of you is not going to go away.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, do it now and enjoy it for the rest of your life. Don't wait 10 years and then you've got less of your life left to enjoy it and think, I should have done this 10 years ago. And you know, just I think back yourself. At the end of the day, you have to back yourself.
Yeah.
And Celebrity Inc., you know, what you get with Celebrity Inc., you get the brand confidence and you get the support. So these guys aren't going to let you fail, right? If you're worried about somehow something horrible happening and it's uncertain market and COVID, blah, blah, blah. You know, you're in a network of support. And you will get whatever gaps you think you have. That's why you buy into a franchise, so you can close that gap, those gaps with the network that you're in.
Yeah, fantastic. That's incredible advice. And just before we come to the end, Manuel, from a CEO's perspective, from a brand kind of, you know, what's on the horizon and where do you expect to see the brand over the next 12 to 24 months and beyond?
Well, I mean, likely we're growing rapidly, and
yeah,
I mean, likely, but at the same time, is product of the work we're doing. There's some countries that I can't mention until it happens, but you will be shortly seeing Celebrity in big countries and other smaller ones around Europe and Americas. And we just continue growing by growing at a pace that we can manage, we can control. One thing that Natalie was saying in terms of us not willing to see franchisees fail. The way I set up our main business goals is the first goal to me as a franchisor is the return on each and every franchisee, the return on their investment. That's my mentality. That's how I look at this business, being able to be sustained in the long term. If the franchisees earn a very good return on the money, then our return will follow. And that's how I will always do business.
Yeah. So you've really got a mentality of enabling their success enables your success.
100%. Even if the success come before ours financially, ours will follow.
Yeah. And obviously the brand growth will continue to drive organic, you know, customers through the studios so that it can enable, you know, Natalie to continue to acquire customers without having to spend a significant amount. So look, I just want to say thanks, guys, for jumping on this call, because there's a lot of people that are at a point now, especially coming at the back of the pandemic, thinking about change. And, you know, business ownership is often one that can motivate and inspire people, but can also create a bit of fear and uncertainty for people making the decision, because it is a big decision, right? So going into the world of business ownership, if you haven't done it, is a big decision. So I want to thank you. I think you've provided a lot of value, a lot of thought, and really it's going to enable people to really think about you know, what's possible. So just want to say thank you very much, and thanks everybody for attending. And we'll be sharing this recording. You know, I encourage you to go back, hear exactly what sort of Natalie mentioned about her experience so far, and what some of those characteristics and behaviors that she's exhibited to enable her to achieve success in her business career.